Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Rare Agent Podcast, where we peel back the curtain on all things real estate. We are your hosts today, Jennifer and Christina. Kelly is unfortunately off sick, boo-hoo. But we open up the space for collaboration over competition. And today we have an incredibly special guest with us today. I am obsessed with his reels and all of his social media antics. This is Kash Alavi. I hope I'm pronouncing that well.
Yeah, it's really good.
Cool. He keeps it real on Reels. He's an industry leader. He mixes up entertainment and real estate, and the results that follow are
incredible. That wasn't rehearsed.
I think they're incredible. Anytime you post something, I was like, oh, so creative. And like the confidence that comes out in them, I absolutely love. I will like to say for our YouTube watchers, because it's driving me crazy, I am wearing my sunglasses because I cannot see without any type of glasses. So please excuse the wardrobe today. But, we're cool with
great.
Kash. We're cool with Kash.
you look stunning as always.
Thank you so much. So Kash, I know we chatted a little bit but when you first came in, but let's tell the viewers how your career started in real estate. How long have you been doing it? A little bit about your journey getting into real estate.
Yeah. So we were kind of like going from country to country growing up. I come from a family of 6. I have 3 sisters and mom and dad. And when we came here as refugees, and we came from humble beginnings in Europe. We came from Europe. In Europe, we had fake identities, lived in refugee camps, like this whole backstory, running away from Iran. And when we actually landed here in Canada, a year later, my parents divorced. So throughout my younger years, in my youth, our family was split up and brought back together, split up, brought back together. And in the process, obviously, we lived in very like tight situations. So when we came here, we were in living in an apartment, and then my parents divorced. My mom, I lived with my mom for a bit, and she had never worked in her life. And eventually I moved in with my dad to be closer to school and to have a father figure. And I was living pretty much on the couch. So I would bother my dad at the age of like 15, like that I really needed a house. I would go to my friend's house and they had like space to do their hobbies. They had the backyard. We would barbecue. Like it was just really nice to have some space. And we didn't have that. And so I remember the kids in my school all wanted to work towards getting a car. And me, it was like, we need a house. We need a house. Like I'm tired of living in these apartments or like living in like a refugee camp. Like, you know what I mean? Like
you wanted a home.
We wanted a home, somewhere stable. And so my dad was like, yeah, go ahead and find a job. Like I can't afford it right now. You find a job. If you can save money, then we'll buy a house. And it's funny enough, that same summer, because we spoke French, my sisters found a job at Bell. It was for a call center rep position. And they're like, why don't you come along? And, they're interviewing everybody because they need people. And I did, and I got the job. And I just started working like crazy. And whenever I wasn't in school, I would pick up like shifts. And I saved every penny I could. And I saved like close to 10,000. And I remember going to my dad and being like, I have this money now. And if we don't buy a house, I'm going to go buy an Acura Integra. Like,
Oh my God.
I was like threatening him. And he's like, no, don't do that. He's like, you have all this money. Don't waste it on a car. And then my oldest sister got married in the process and she like moved out. She found her freedom. And it was me and my middle sister. My little sister was living with my mom, but me and my middle sister. So we're like, let's all pool our monies together somehow. And we found this beautiful house in Bayview Village for $350,000.
Okay, what year was this? Sorry to stop
2000.
you. Long time ago. Okay.
It was on the main street. So
Okay.
yeah, like the interior homes were going for like $420, $450.
Okay.
This one was $350, and it was like they were desperate to sell. But we were like, it's a home. Like I don't care if it's on the main street. It was on a corner. And then I remember driving. We're on our way to do showings, but this house was like, we saw the sign. And we were like calling. My dad's like, that house is going to be way too expensive for us. We can't do it. We're like, just call. So we called the realtor. They came. They showed the house. We fell in love, even though like now looking back, it was like a shack and like barely had a backyard. Like everything was overgrown. We fell in love and we found out like, okay, let's make an offer. And it was like so difficult, but somehow we closed it. So we got the house, we closed it. And it started from there. And I remember like, I thought that was the end. I was like, yes, I got my own room. I got a bit of a backyard. And my dad's like, no, now you got to pay like 1/3 of the mortgage. Like you're not off the hook. And I was like, oh shoot. So like we kind of had family discussions and we're like, let's rent out the basement. So I would go to Home Depot and learn. They had those Saturday classes, like learn how to frame, learn how to drywall. I picked up a few things from there, and we just like bought material, and I started renovating the basement. We made tons of terrible mistakes in that basement, but it was rentable, and I got like we rented them room by room.
Oh.
And
Oh,
I was,
wow.
like 4 bedrooms down there with a common area and a kitchen. I was making $1,700 a month at like the age of 16. I was there, and my dad put me in charge, like to be their landlord. And of course, I made more mistakes. Like I brought the first guy who would show up with like a wad of cash. I'd be like, "Yes, you're my new tenant. Like, give me that cash." You know?
Yeah.
And so like we had issues with tenants and stuff like that. So it's been a very painful, but that's what got me into real estate. Like that was my first, like interaction and getting my feet wet with real estate transaction. I was too young to even have my name on the title.
Yeah,
I
16.
remember-
I was
yeah.
wondering. Well, now that you said it, I was like, oh, that makes sense. You are
Yeah,
young.
I remember going to the lawyer's office for closing and stuff, and they had my sister's name and my dad's, and she's like, "You can't get your name," and I was so angry. I'm like, "I'm the one who initiated this.
You
Like,
started it,
what
right?
the hell? Like, write my name somewhere." Like,
Do they thank you now in your like coming like
no, my dad's telling
Traditional
me,
parents, right? Yeah.
he changes stories, but a lot of it is like my dad's taught me a lot, and like the drive and everything else, and like although he won't admit it, but I was kind of the one that poked at him, and he'll say, "Yeah, fine, it was you did it, but because you were gonna go and have fun and party with your friends and not pay the mortgage, we were gonna lose the house if it wasn't for me," and. But long story short, we did it together. We did it as a family, and that's when I got into kind of like learn about real estate and the process of being a landlord and finding tenants. And then fast forward, so I was still working at Bell, and I kept getting promoted. I spoke French, and I was very dedicated because this was my first real taste at like a paycheck. And until then, I had like not gone to a fast food restaurant. I had not gone to the theaters. Like everything was new to me. So being able to have my own income where I could like do things for myself, I felt like rich and on top of the world. And that taste of money like really like motivated me. And so I just wanted to move up the ladder in the corporate ladder at Bell, and which I did. I got promoted a bunch of times, and at the age of like 21, I became a manager of a department that had like 6 people underneath me.
Oh, wow. So
This-
there was no partying for Kash in his 20s.
I did here and there, but I would
Okay.
I was really focused on like I gotta make money. You know what I mean?
That's
like
rare.
I had to like catch up on lost time,
Yeah.
which was good and bad. Like it changed me in a way where I was like, my dad is also very money driven, and so am I, and it's because of our like upbringing and like the challenges we had to face. Until I met my wife in school, she changed me, but that's like a later story. But anyway, so I started doing so as I was in at Bell and making extra money and getting promoted, I was like, let's do this again and buy more properties and rent them out. So we did that, renovated more homes. I also flipped the house. I found another house in Baby Village. It was like underlisted, and I could tell the value was like much higher. And so we picked it up real quick. And I remember my dad being like, "Are you sure?" It was like $860,000. I bought it, closed it, and then sold it for like $1.1 million. So that was very
wow.
motivating. So
What
like
year was that? What years would you say? Like
couple
before?
years after we bought our own home. So I would say like if we bought 2000, like it was maybe like 2004-ish.
Were the majority of your investments in and around the Baby Village neighborhood, or did you do otherwise?
Yeah, so we had one on Bishop, which was at Yonge and Finch,
Okay.
Ambrose, Baby Village, Lorraine, which was Yonge and Finch. So like, yeah, around the same.
In and around the neighborhood of Toronto.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Until later, I found like Keswick, because like they were extending the highway, and I bought a couple homes there, which did really well. They were like 300 grand, and then now they're up to like 800.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So anyways, so then, we were in a department at Bell that was very technical, and I used to sell satellite space on the satellite, like bandwidth, to companies who wanted to do broadcasts. And at that time, the internet wasn't enough to broadcast high definition streaming content. So we would sell bandwidth on the satellite and do it directly through the satellite. But as soon as the internet kind of replaced that, the whole department slowly like shut down, and they gave us a package. And luckily, right before it shut down, I started taking my real estate courses. And as soon as that happened, it was like a sign from God, like this, you just got to keep going in this
Meant to
direction.
be.
Meant to be. Yeah.
Yeah, you're following your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
And then
good.
that's how I got into real estate in 2009. and like
Well, that was a little bit of a tumultuous time, though, right?
Yeah.
Because I was in real estate at that time as well, and I remember the market had kind of gone down in 2009. Is that essentially when you started?
yeah, but that's the best time to start as a new realtor.
Yeah.
You don't want to start when it's super easy because then you're like, oh, this is easy. Like anyone could be a realtor. And then when the tough times hit, you got to rethink your whole business. But for me, I got really lucky because of all the things I was doing and dealing with homes and flipping and renting and tenants, people around me all knew what I was dealing with. And so like they would come to me with questions like, hey, how do you hire, like find a tenant? How do you create a lease agreement? How do you do renovations? Like they would ask me these questions. Instant trust. But then that translated to, hey, let me just like look for, I'll help you find that house you're looking for. Or like, I'll help you with the process of finding a tenant. So it was just like a easy transition for me. It was kind of like a meant to be. So the first year I did really well. I started in June, but I still made like, I think close to 100 grand.
That's amazing for your first year in real estate. But to your point, it was a lot of like, so your leads mainly came from your sphere and like, because they know, like, and trust you and trust you in that investor space, right? So that's amazing.
Yeah. No, I got really lucky in certain things. And then obviously like I would door knock and cold calling, do all that stuff. But the sphere was always feeding my business. And that's how I got into real estate. Yeah. 14 years ago. 13, 14.
So speaking about yourself, what would you say sets you apart as being a realtor right now?
As far as being a realtor, I think the main important thing is like what my clients keep telling me is that I'm authentic and I'm present. Meaning like I don't, when you're talking to someone and they're kind of like thinking of different things, but they pretend like they're listening to you. When I'm with someone, I'm really listening to them and I get involved in like what their situation is and I contribute, like maybe we should do this and give ideas and like they feel like I'm trying to help, which I am. And so like that gives them a feeling of comfort. And I think that sets me apart. It's like being authentic and really listening and being present. Yeah.
Was that something you always knew, or was that something that you maybe were mentored by someone to understand? Like did someone when you first got in, were you mentored by anybody?
No, I wasn't. And I wish I joined a team, to be honest, because that would have like cut my learning curve.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree on what they want on that one.
Yeah. But I think what I learned it in at Bell, like customer service. Like I did like 8 years at Bell and I really learned to listen to people's problems because I was at the customer service call center and I would take people's calls and they'd have technical issues with the satellite boxes or they had billing issues. And it was like the more you listen, the faster you can get it fixed. So you don't have to spend like extra time on the phone. Because you have like old people calling and be like, my receiver says satellite signal lost. And if you're just like not really paying attention, that call is gonna take twice as long, right? And obviously they're there like monitoring your call times and everything else, your stats, and you get bonuses based on that. So being so money hungry that I was like, no, I got to do this like this way, and like I got to listen to the client. As soon as I listen, I can get them to like I can speak their language, and that's where I learned to be a bit of a chameleon. It's like everyone has a different approach. And if you can mimic their approach, they'll connect with you a bit better and they'll be able to come to a solution or a resolution much faster. Yeah.
I have to say, Bell must have been like, that call center must have been like quite a tumultuous place to work. I mean, just a call center, when I call, I had Rogers, but when I call like those places, I am vicious. I don't mean to be, but I am angry, I am upset, and like, it's like the school of hard knocks, but in a call center format, just because of who you're dealing with. Every single person has a different issue, different personality. And were you ever attacked on the phone?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, all the time. But I did it from a place of joy. Like I was like so happy being there. And I was getting paid like $16 an hour in the year of 99 for a 16-year-old. That's a lot of money. I had no payments,
really good.
No financial commitments. I'm like raking in cash at this point. Like that's how I saw it. I was like the richest person I knew. So like I was like, oh, I have to deal with these older people from Quebec calling and like being angry like in French. Like, Monsieur, je peux pas faire. Like, do you guys speak French?
No.
Un petit peu, but that's okay. Let's not go there. I'm going to embarrass myself real quick.
Anyways, it was difficult because some of them have very thick accents and like you're trying to understand. And it's like, I came from Belgium, which is like more of a French, from France type of French. And so like there were some really big challenges, but like, hey, I was there getting paid by the hour. So like I was just going to deal with these clients one at a time. Like,
what a good attitude to have because you need that in real estate. You
Yeah.
need that because you absorb so many people's emotions all the time that it's intense. You speak about your dad quite a bit. Do you find your sons have your drive? Do you think they'll become realtors too?
No, I don't want them to become realtors.
No, why not?
So I was telling you guys how I was like money driven, but then my wife really changed me and my perspective.
Okay.
Like money is great, but it's not the focal point.
Okay.
So real estate is great, but I feel like there's so much in this world that the kids could do. And like, I want them to really explore their artistic side. And if they want to pursue, like I was just telling you, my son has an art assessment at like a school. They declined him last year because he was too young. But like this year, they called and they're like, we want to have him again. I kind of want them to, because I think and I see the future where like jobs like even a doctor or a lawyer's job could be easily replaced by AI. And I think by the time my kids, when they're at an age where they can work, a lot of the jobs are almost going to be obsolete or like they're going to be replaced, automated or whatever.
Very true.
Yeah. And I think it's very important to focus on creativity because that's where we humans are, have an advantage over AI or the systems, art and stuff already. Like, look, social media is a place where we can express ourselves in creative ways. And that's something that AI is trying to mimic, but, we're all like flourishing in, right? Like it's a huge space that wasn't there like 10 years ago. And it's all has to do with creativity. A lot of art, so like dance, all that stuff is being displayed on social media too. And it's like the content that actually gets the best views or does the best is like the creative stuff. So I think the artistic stuff is what I want my kids to really explore the most. And it could be anything, music.
What
dance.
a refreshing attitude, because growing up, that was not the attitude.
It was not.
No, that is like, it's really refreshing and like letting your kids be who they want to be. Because you have your children, you are big into acting.
Yeah, no, I allow them to do
Acting,
like
yeah.
everything. They're into acting. My daughter's into cheerleading. My son is into soccer. And at the exact same time, I've got my son in doing some coding, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's about, for me anyways, it's about letting them explore what it is that they want to do and helping them flourish in whatever they feel their strengths are, and not necessarily pushing it. That's just my own personal sort of values. So I can definitely, that resonates with me a lot. So stemming off of that then, you've talked a lot about like money driving you or no longer driving you because it's doing different things. So can we just ask a simple question? Like, what makes you get out of the morning then today? If it's not money, is it family? Is it?
It's mostly family. It's like I aim for a mood. I feel like life is just a mood. If you can achieve that mood, you're having a good life. Because you know how like they say people don't remember what you say, they just remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for us when we live our lives. When we look back, we don't remember every detail, but we do remember how we felt during those eras, those times. If we were scared or sad or happy, or there were happy times or whatever. So I try to just generally stay in a good mood, to have a happy kind of family, a happy state of mind, and feed myself with exciting things. Like I place little events, like my wife knows I do this. So every week I have like weekly events or like monthly where I schedule them in and I look forward to those events. And I get excited about those events. And throughout the week, like I either look forward to that or look, like vacations with the family or whatever it is. And like obviously getting up, like seeing my kids and having events with them, like we're going on a trip or we're having a birthday party soon for my oldest, and like that's a big event. Those things like drive me the most. And as far as like business goes, like there's certain goals that I have. Obviously, it's not like I don't want money, but I try not to make it. I'm not focused on a certain amount of dollars to make, but I'm focused on certain goals that will bring the dollars. Right. So like when I think of like, I want to make certain types of content, like I really like making people laugh. getting reactions out
You
of people.
succeed in that so well.
Thank you.
You make me laugh every time I jump and I see one of your reels. I'm dying. I'm absolutely dying. I think
That's
they're
good to
awesome.
Yeah. What is the creative? Well, I guess we can one question to the next, but the creative process of that, is it, do you get inspired randomly and you're like, I want to do that? Or,
I have a huge imagination.
Okay.
Like massive. Like I used to go to parties and like look at a wall in a corner and like imagine things in that corner and how that tile was put together and like how there's like I don't know if I'm on the spectrum or something or like, but I'll notice details and things and they turn into some random thoughts in my head and like I use that and I harness it to like situations that I like come across, or I'll see a video and it'll inspire me to think of another idea. So it comes from every which direction, to be honest with you. And like as a kid, and I feel like having kids enables me to maintain that imagination because I'll like play along with them. And I kind of like want them to, I encourage them to like harness that ability to just pretend always.
make believe.
Yeah, make
anything.
believe. It's the best thing to do because like kids, they can turn anything into a joyful experience. And as a grown up, like we get put into a box through school and society's pressure and peer pressure. Like this is how I'm supposed to be as an executive at this firm, or this is who I'm supposed to be as a professional. And they place you in a box, and we just mimic each other from what we see other successful people. But we're living in a time where things are changing rapidly, and like you're no longer like that norm isn't the same anymore.
Yeah,
right?
like it doesn't. I agree. Like doesn't matter. You could be successful at so many different things now, and look and not be that box that you're describing. Like you could be a content creator and be very wealthy and very successful, and no one would know it unless you follow their content, which is kind of how I stumbled on you. I was like, holy moly, this guy is a genius. The one I really loved that you did was the Drake card.
The Drake card.
The Drake card. That was like,
So a lot of those videos are like the best ones are like the spontaneous last minute ones that I like we thought of like on the spot. That one I had seen someone make that splice, that split, but it was completely different scenario. And I was like, how funny would it be? Because like I think of ideas that it's relatable, and the relatable ideas are the ones that like do the best because other people can relate to, and they're like, yes, as a realtor, that's how I feel. Every time I introduce myself as a realtor at a party, I feel like I either get shat on, or like the person gives me a cold shoulder, or like they just fade away and like don't want to hang out with me anymore.
yeah, because
right?
they think you're going to be talking to them about real estate the whole
you're
time.
gonna be selling them. Yeah.
So I had someone ask me to ask you this. Has Drake reached out to you?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Was he tagged? Did you tag him?
Yeah, I think he was tagged on there. Yeah, he was tagged.
That's awesome.
Even the starting from the bottom video?
Yeah, no, I've like sent messages to kind of made Drake type content like 3 times.
So I just want to touch on this though, because we didn't actually introduce you to our listeners and people who may not potentially know you. Your social media game as a realtor is top notch. It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
You have an incredible amount of followers. You post content, daily or not daily, but very frequently, that is creative, entertaining. The reels are like spoofs of all kinds of things. There was one where you had this whole like TikTok split. Was it rich parents talking to the kids, and then you had the kids like with the boy licking his lips as if he was talking to a girl. I was dying, absolutely dying.
In the car.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
I saw that
and
one
it's
too.
expanded, and I feel like each reel that you do like gets bigger and bigger. And I know that you recently did one with Ari, right, from the Spring Team. Was it that with the movie? Oh my God, what an epic movie! Like it was a rap video. Was that the one with Drake? No, that was a different
music
one.
video.
What was they did the song parody? Like he just took the melody.
No, that was different. Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, it all stems from just doing what you want to do. Like, because when I first started making content, it was 2018. Like, I was thinking about it, and it took me so long to just think about like, should I do it? Should I not? And at that time, I had already built like a database of clients, but they were like a database of like random clients. Like some were from like my parents' referrals, some were from previous jobs. So like the demographics were all over the place. And like I said, I was like a bit of a chameleon with every client. I would like cater to that person and present myself in a certain way for these older folks, or like the younger people. I'd be more hip and like maybe funny. And that was exhausting because like you're kind of like putting on different hats, right? when I wanted to make the content was true to me. It was like my passion because I used to be a class clown and I wanted to take that energy and like make these skit comedies. In fact, I used to make like, my dad had bought this camera and I used to make like funny music videos for the family only, for people to like watch, or like our school projects were like done as videos or whatever, and they were well done. And so when I first wanted to make content, I'm like, what are my clients going to think of me and like my content? Like if I'm making fun of something, the people who haven't seen me in that, from that perspective, like they're probably going to judge and be like, who is this guy kind of thing. But I was like, no, let's just go with it. And I just did it. And what I noticed happened is like the people who were around me like discovered this new side of me and were like, oh my God, you're so funny. And then it actually attracted more like-minded clients. So instead of being like a huge diversity of like different types of people that I was dealing with, I started gaining more clients in one category that's very similar to who I am. And it became much easier to do business. It became more
really
natural. Yeah.
I have to ask, just because I have parents who always have things to say. Did your parents have anything to say about like,
No.
who's gonna? What are you doing? Who are you putting out there? So and so is gonna say something. Did you have any of that, or your parents were like,
So I've
or
always,
they did not even know that it existed?
No, I think parents are, and it's funny you say this because I thought about this because I'm like, because all my parents follow, like both my parents follow me, and Kenya's parents follow me, and like my uncles and like everybody from Iran, even like people follow me. So it's like my whole life is exposed to everyone, and I've just learned to let go and let it be. And at first I was like, what are my parents going to think? Because, you always show a different side of yourself to parents, because parents could be a little annoying, still telling you at this age what to do, how to feed your kids and how to do whatever you need to do. And so like we were kind of defensive with our parents. When they come around, we're like, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me, you know what I mean? So for them to see an unfiltered version of you on social media where you're like just being yourself and stuff, like makes you wonder if they're judging. But one thing I'm learning is parents will support you no matter what. Like I've seen parents like stand up for their kids who have committed murder, which is pretty crazy. But by watching that, I realized, no, parents are going to be your biggest supporters no matter what. If you're making good content, bad content, they're actually not the right people to get feedback from, because they'll always be like, I love your content. It's so great.
My mom always does the hard eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I can show you. My mom will hard eye everything. I'm talking about a sad story on my stories, and she's like, hard eye, funny. Like she's like laughing at it. I'm like, that's the wrong emoji. But
they're your biggest cheerleaders. I totally,
yeah. So it's okay.
Aside from parents, then, have any of your clients like had anything to say, or are they just all loving it? Have you ever had anybody turn to you and say, why did you do this?
Never. And this is the funny part, because to this day, I'm still waiting for that. I'm waiting because like I keep pushing the envelope with some of the videos.
Do you get people that you don't know hating on your videos?
Only on TikTok, I see people leaving meaningful, hateful comments. But I noticed that on TikTok, there's a lot of that.
Kind of like Twitter?
Yeah, I'm not really active on Twitter, but I
Either
feel like
I just know that what people say.
But realtors as a whole like always get hate, especially on TikTok.
Yeah, it's like, of course you're saying this because you want to sell a house and you guys don't have a job. Blah, 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 blah,
oh, did you notice that on?
I did.
On Dave's
I was like,
video, like
I was going to hate on the hater, but then you hated on him for me, so I was like, that's good,
Dave Touch, we just launched his video last week, and somebody that is I chatted with him. I was like, who is this loser? And he goes, oh, it's somebody from a past somebody.
Yeah, you took the time out of your day to go and post on and hate on somebody's good
And then
post.
he asked me to be on the podcast. He's like, I'd love to come by and be on the podcast so we can really discuss this. I was like, oh my God. I don't have the time.
Your hater? The hater?
Yeah, the guy on the video.
Okay, later.
Interesting. Actually, it's funny because I have a guy, there's this kid in Seattle who's like part of a real estate team. It's his family's team. He's been copying my videos like to the T, like frame by frame, word by word, everything. And I reached out to him. I'm like, hey man, like this is like the fourth video like you do. He's like, yeah, but it's normal for people to take TikTok trends and put a spin. I'm like, and get inspired by them. I'm like, you're not. First of all, these are like not a TikTok trend. This is like a skit that I made, and you like literally took it from A to Z, put no spin to it. And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that. I'll put your name on it, like inspired by Kash. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then like 2 weeks later, he puts another one, like copy frame by frame. But then I'm like, you know what? it's a form of flattery. Like, thank you. I appreciate the fact that like you like it so much that you want to copy it for yourself. So there's that too. There's people that like will come and troll you on social media. There's people that will copy you, people that will hate on you. And it's an area where you're very exposed and vulnerable. And I realize you can't address them one by one, because once your content goes on social media, it's no longer yours anymore. It's like, it's free for anyone to criticize or like to do whatever they want with it. You just have to be in charge of your own self and your emotions and the way you deal with it and move forward. And that's it.
Our reactions to it.
Yeah, our reactions to it. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you are very, very visible on social media. That's how
Very open,
that's how a lot of people, I think, know you. Is that the majority of where you do go ahead and get your leads? So for some of the new agents out there, just are you able to share some tips on how to go about attracting people from social media? If it's not from social media, where does it come from?
So I used to do flyering, door knocking, like be very active in different areas.
In traditional marketing.
Yeah, Willowdale, East York, Leaside, like those areas. And I got really good business out of it, but it wasn't like consistent. And it was tough business. It was like I had to go like really fight and get that business and prove who I am and how. And I had to do that every client again and again. With social media, as soon as I started doing it, it was like people were calling me and they didn't want me to give them a listing presentation. It was like, hey, I want to list my house and like come on over. And I would show up there ready for a listing presentation, but then realize like they don't even want to hear what I do, because they've already been following me for like a year or two.
They know what you do.
They know what I do. And I started getting business from social media like couple years into making content. At first I wasn't at all. It was because I was just posting the funny stuff, but not doing like stories or anything like that. Later on, I started doing stories of my day-to-day stuff. And within that day-to-day stuff, I would show like, hey, I'm staging a house. We just sold a place. We're showing places. I would show like the nice houses I'm like visiting and stuff like that. So people started realizing like, oh, hey, he's not just like a funny guy. He's actually doing these transactions. He's got clients. He's staging. He's done a good job. He just sold a place, like over asking, blah, blah, blah. So the records were there and I started getting business from it. Like 2 years ago, I did like over 220,000 just from new business and social media.
New social media business.
New social media.
People you did not know.
No, people that, this is how it works.
I know how it's like.
First
one
they
person
follow
is,
you.
Exactly.
First they follow you, then they trickle. Like they come into your DMs. We'll discuss about different things. Oh, you're at the gym. Did you try this supplement? Oh, you should try F45, or you should do this. And then these conversations will happen on and off for like a year. And then eventually it's like, hey, by the way, like we have this condo, the tenant's moving out. Like, how much do you think it's worth? And then they'll give me the address. And then it's like, hey, and then one thing leads to another. And I'm there. I'm listing the place and then so on. So social media has been a good chunk of my business since COVID started, especially.
That's awesome.
Something that I always grapple with is like, how do you get over the pulling your phone out in those random situations? Like I always think, oh, it's not a good time, or I'm running or I'm rushing. How do you remember to pause and like actually document that stuff?
I make time for it now. And it's still difficult. Like if I'm in a new setting, new situation, like I should have probably done a story here and I didn't.
We can do it afterwards. Don't worry.
Yeah, we will.
We have time.
We will. But then it's like, but then the gym I go to, and I almost have to because I know people are expecting me to put it. And if I don't put a story at the gym, they're gonna think I didn't go to the gym. And then it's like, what's the point of working out if nobody knows I worked out? Like it gets into that pattern. It's also like an accountability thing. But it's like now that I've done it, I've found a space for it. Or like when I used to do showings, I do showings. I do a little bit less showings now because of my team and stuff, but I used to do all the showings before. And before going to like a nicer house, I used to take my assistant and we'd be like, okay, let's go 10 minutes earlier. And I would check with the listing agent and be like, hey, I just want to show it on my stories for my own network of people and promote the house. And I would tell them, like, I have a rule. I don't talk bad about the house. Like, I'm not going to bash the house. So they would say, yeah, sure, go ahead. I'd be like, it's on stories and it's not on, I'm not making a reel. It's nothing that would stay there saying like, pretending like it's my listing. And that became a thing, right? And I would do it only in nicer homes, not like, something run down, like there's nothing to really show. But then I realized I could do it in those times too, because I would go to like Etobicoke and looking for a builder's lot or like a lot that could be severed. And then I would talk about the neighborhood and what you could build there. And I would always get people DMing me being like, hey, that's interesting. And we're looking to build something, but in this area. And like, it would lead to a different conversation. But you need to have that. I did I did a speaking engagement for Remax Canada just recently at the YLN event. And I put a presentation together and I was explaining to the people that were there, it's like, I have something that most realtors don't have, but I'm missing a lot of the stuff that most realtors have. So I have the hook type of content, which hooks people in. And then I need to trickle in more real estate content to show who I am, to kind of like set my identity so people know that I'm a professional within my field. Originally, when I started with the hook content gets a lot of views, gets a lot of likes and comments. So it's hard for me to then put in like a listing video that gets a fraction of that. You know, like it feels like I'm not getting that dopamine hit.
Like wasted space.
Yeah,
on
wasted
your feed.
space.
Yeah.
So I hesitated to share, and I also didn't want to lose my followers because they came for the funny stuff. I don't want them to be like, oh, great, another listing video, I'm out, right? But other realtors do that part really well, but they're missing the hook video. Yeah, but the hook is very important because that's what brings all the traffic through your door. Then you got to show who you are once they're inside, right? I get them all through the door.
I'm not really showing people who I am. Like, they're like, oh, what did you do today? I'm like, oh, I did this, this, and this. They're like, why didn't you? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even think about it. But I think it's just a mind blocker I'm having where it's like, if you want this to really work, you need to do it. Like, you got to get over yourself. And,
yeah, you gotta just step out of the box.
Yeah.
And that's where that imagination comes in. The more you do something out of the box confidently, the more people admire you and want to follow you, because you'll be like something new, right? Because they see all the realtors are trying to do the same thing. And it's almost like boring. It's like, okay, here comes another copy paste.
Interest rates. Anybody else going to talk about interest rates today? Yeah. Like it's.
But see, you could still talk about interest rates because that's what's happening in your industry. However, you could put your own spin on it, right? You could do it while you're feeding your kids or like doing drop offs or whatever, like something that, because other moms are watching it and they're gonna relate to you and be like, you know what, that's what a badass mom. Like I want to be like her, right? Like and that's fine. That's because the beauty is everyone is a real estate client. Anyone could potentially be a real estate client. It's not just one type of demographic. It's not like the professional. So you have to appeal to this personality. No, you could have people who are from different backgrounds and race or whatever it is, and they all need a place to live. So you can appeal to anyone. So by being yourself, you'll just attract that group of people that you're most comfortable with, right?
So I have to jump in here and ask, I love, again, all of this social media creativity. Do you have a media team with you? Do you have somebody who films and you go ahead and take the actions, or is it your assistant? And who does the post-production? Like, is it a whole thing now, and how did it start? How did it evolve? It's just you?
No, so the first video I made, I hired someone. I paid like $2,000, and I was like, and this is another thing is I tell most people is if you're going to make content, you should at least work with a professional videographer at least once to see the process of how they do it. Like they'll show you the process of like brainstorming and then doing a shot list. And then that shot list will help you like organize your shoot day and so on. So it'll give you a better idea so that it's not this huge obstacle, because people will procrastinate because they don't know where to start. So it's great to work with a videographer, which I did at the beginning. And then I just took it over with my own cell phone for like until actually like recently. This year, I decided I'm just going to collaborate with any videographer. So I started working with Cam from Gray Media, with Sam from Mashadi. I did a bunch of stuff with Kia Nikon. Like anyone who's down, I'm like, I want to try you guys. But I have a lot of the stuff is my creative ideas and control, and kind of I have a really good eye for direction. I could somehow like tell a story with obviously the direction of like the angles and the shots and everything else. So recently I've been working a lot with these guys, but I kind of have to tell them, and I still edit to this point. Like I'll have their editors send me my videos. Some of the funny stuff is like an idea I have in my head, like how do I describe exactly, and a lot of it has to do with the different cuts and like when you cut and what words you use. So I end up doing it on my iMovie and then sending it to their to their editor, and then they'll just copy what I did and like fine tune it from there. But if you look at my phone, I have like takes and retakes from like, I had to go get a massive phone because I knew all my content wouldn't fit. And I have to keep upgrading my iCloud, and I'm paying like $50 a month now for my iCloud just to have all my stuff backed up. But you'll notice like content that's been shot like over and over again, and different shots and retakes and everything else. And so like I just take it straight from my phone, edit it on iMovie. You don't
The
need
gentleman that's with you in the videos.
Ash.
Ash.
Yeah, he's my teammate now. Yeah,
He's your teammate?
we've been working together for like I'd say almost 2 years now. And
He does he enjoy it as well?
oh yeah, he loved it.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
does he
wanted-
come up with ideas as well? And do you guys
He
collab?
helps me now. I think he better understands like where my mind's at, and he's been very helpful. I like I'll describe an idea, and he's like, "That's funny." He's like, "What if we did this too? Like, what if this happened?" And I'm like, "That's a great idea." So like, it's becoming more of a conversation.
I'm thinking of you two sitting together, and it's
Yeah.
you saying it's provocative. And
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you saw that one with the
yeah, I totally did. I enjoyed that.
a lot of times it's and a few times where I've been like trying to push him, and he's like, no, I can't do that. I'm like, come on. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Eventually, he'll probably get more.
Yeah, eventually he will.
Yeah.
He's noticing because he'll go to parties, especially like Persian. He's more like into the Persian community. He'll go to parties and stuff, and he'll be like, yeah, people were talking about our video and that Persian realtor stuff. He's like, we got to do more. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, because I guess the Persian that video did really well with the Persian community. The character.
My fiance was one of those things. Do you think it's actually cologne when you're spraying it? I'm like, maybe.
It's actually cologne, but the time I sprayed it in my mouth, I had the Listerine spray on the side.
Oh.
But then it's funny because in the bloopers, I actually sprayed the cologne in my mouth. And I was like, oh, I got it on I'm like, shit, it's in my mouth. And then Ash starts laughing like crazy.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to use those bloopers. I have a lot of like bloopers that I'm going to release. But yeah, it's really fun, and it's funny. It's it's a job because you're making these funny videos, but then they translate to conversations, which then translate to purchase or sales and transactions. And
because people want to hang out with you.
It
They
seems to
see
be
that
that
personality.
the more that you make people laugh, the more you just essentially draw them in for like bigger and better conversations.
yeah,
right?
exactly. And I never put that together. And I'm so happy because I just started making the content with just like, I don't care. I'm just going to put my passion out there. Like, I like making content. I like making videos, and I want to make people laugh. It was never with the intent of making money out of it. But what I'm noticing is when I come across people who know my content or who have seen me, and they'll approach me with a big smile and be like, Kash. And I'm like, hey, and it's like so much easier. It's like to connect, right? Because people have seen my content and they've laughed at it, and now they feel comfortable approaching. So
I have to ask now. So you're amazing at all
Thank
of this
you.
stuff. Your mind is like an explosion of creativity.
Refreshing to the industry.
Yeah, very
So
refreshing. What is next in terms of where do you want to grow with your business? I want to know that. And then I also want to know what's next for Kash on social media. What do you got cooking up there next?
So actually, just recently, I got my first brand deal. Someone kept emailing me, and I thought it was spam, just deleting it until I clicked on the link. I realized they wanted me to do video for like a brand, a cookie, a cracker company, a vegan Canadian cracker company. So I'm like, this is a first. I want to do more stuff like that, maybe coaching, content on helping other realtors make content and come out of their shell and find a true their identity and like their personalities and bring that out in their content, because that's going to bring them business. As far as business goes, I want to expand my team a little bit further, find a few more Ashes, because he's really good.
Is it just you and Ash right now, or
Me, Ash, and an assistant.
Okay.
But yeah, so I used to have a few more teammates pre-COVID. But I'm kind of revamping everything, and now I feel like I have a way better idea of where I want to go and what I want to do, and how I want to spend my time. So expand the team a little bit, spend time with the family. That's very important until the kids are at least like 10, 12, because then they don't want to see me anymore. They want to hang out with their friends. But that's really the near future. It's like a balance of more content. You'll be seeing more content from me. I want to do more promotional skits, like maybe ad placements, but still maintain a really funny skit type of comedy where people are enjoying the content, but at the same time, I'm getting paid from getting my passion out there.
You're you're a bona fide real estate influencer at this point. You have a brand deal. Maybe.
It's a tiny brand deal. Yeah.
It's in the works there.
It's pending. Yeah. But there's been a few, I've been paid for a few speaking engagements. I've been asked to do a couple of these commercials, and it seems like it's going in that direction. So
you are a natural just at speaking here. Do you think that you would do more public speaking in that?
Yeah, because I actually have a fear of public speaking. I had a fear, and I'm overcoming it at the moment. And it came from when I used to work at Bell and I got promoted to the new building under the technical building. We used to have these Monday morning meetings, and it was just me who was like the non-technical guy with all these VP and directors that had technical backgrounds. And we'd have these discussions, and I had known nothing about the technical side, and they would kind of like poke fun at me and stuff. And I was like dreading these like Monday morning meetings, and the meetings were pretty big. So I got to this stage where I was like almost like had a phobia of like speaking. And like as soon as I got the opportunities to do public speaking, I just took them all. And although I was like very nervous and scared at first, but I like doing things that make me uncomfortable because that's the only way you grow. It's like going to the gym. Unless you feel that burn, your muscles are not going to take shape, or you're not going to build that muscle. So, and I feel like that's what you got to do in life. You got to really excite yourself with like putting yourself in situations that are somewhat uncomfortable, but they'll force your growth, right?
Absolutely. Be uncomfortable in order to grow. I love it. That's wonderful. Okay, so let's get on to some fun stuff. Not that all of this was fun. This entire thing was fun, but just a quick couple of questions. If you could start your social media journey all over again, what would you do differently and why?
I would just let go and just get on with it.
When did you start on social?
2018, I started.
Okay, 2018.
I started making excuses. That's what I started doing.
Okay.
I was like, I want to get on social media, but then I was like, I need this light. I need this mic. I need to find a videographer. No, I need to rethink it. I hired people. I fired people. I like did so much, but make content. Just pick up the phone and start talking to the phone, expressing what you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind that day. Don't worry about what people think. Sometimes I'll look at my stories, and my daily stories get anywhere between 1,300 to 2,300 views. And it's a lot. It's overwhelming.
Do you ever have PTSD of what you've like put out there?
Yeah, but I never watch my stuff again. Like some of my videos I do, but the stories I just don't watch back.
You're just like, it's out there. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, because like if I'm speaking to you live, I don't get to correct it or delete what I just said, right? So
see, that's a tactic I have not heard of. I love that. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people are scared of their voice, or they'll watch back their voice, and it's like, yes, you sound different because you've been hearing yourself through your skull your whole life. But people are used to your voice, the sound of your voice, how it really sounds like on video. That's how it really sounds, and people are all used to it. They're not cringing. You're the only one cringing, so get over it and move on.
I love it.
And it's funny because when I made content with Jessica in my office, we watched back the piece of content we got back, and she's like, "Oh my gosh," she was like cringing and moving, and like she didn't want to watch parts of it. And then I'm like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "Well, I don't like this." I'm like, "Well, did you notice all the times where I said this or I did that?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Exactly. No one's noticing you. You're just picking at yourself." And if I wanted to, I can give you a list of things I did wrong, or I like mispronounced, or I look like an idiot. But you didn't even pick up on that. So no one is picking up on that. No one's criticizing you the way you are criticizing yourself. So
for sure. Okay. We talked a lot about social media, a lot about reels. I want to know your craziest real estate story.
So it's the craziest. There's a bunch of crazy stories, but one that really stood out is I had this like 86-year-old like really hit on me in East York. Like I used to door knock and yeah, she was this very sweet lady. Every so often I would pass by, I'd be like, "Hey, do you need anything?" Like, and she was like, come, I made you coffee, I made you cake or whatever. She always had something going because her son would come and go. And then she'd make me sit and we'd have conversations, and then like, it would start with her holding my hand, and it's like, it's an old lady. And then one day she's like, "You have beautiful lips. Can I kiss you?" And I'm like, oh my God. And I was like 86 years old. I'm like, how does this?
The drive never stops.
I'm like, good for you. So that was like fairly, because she was like really coming on to me, and I've never had that happen to me.
Did you just cut off all ties from then and there?
I didn't cut off ties. I stopped going to her door, but I did keep in touch with her on the phone. I gotta say.
Did you have a transaction with the 86-year-old?
Not yet. She has not sold yet.
Okay.
she probably just led me on.
Hopefully, hopefully she's not listening today. I don't think so, but okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love it. Okay, so wrapping things up here, we do have a set of 3 questions that we ask everybody that comes on here, and you have to answer in as short as possible.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go. Favorite GTA neighborhood?
My neighborhood, Uplands Golf Course area.
Nice, nice. Okay, I like
Very
it.
nice.
Number 2, you're always on the go. What's your favorite fast food go-to?
Persian food
Oh,
because
which
it's
one?
healthy and it's still it feels like home. Yeah.
Nice,
I've
nice.
been eating out a lot, so
Any particular chain?
no, but they're all very
Got it.
consistent. To be honest, it's grilled meat and rice.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
And what makes an agent rare? You can elaborate on this one.
Again, I think it's the quality of like listening and not being just focused on getting the transaction done. Like I know it's so cliche. Everyone says that, oh, just being there for the client. But like all you got to do is really just do that. Like it's nothing too complicated. But unfortunately it's quite rare in an agent because a lot of agents just want to get the deal done and move on. But if you really spend that extra bit of time, it's usually another 10, 15, 20% of your time and effort within that transaction, but they will refer you to like a dozen other people and be like, because they'll appreciate it. Sometimes you think they don't appreciate it or they don't realize, but they do realize because then they go talk to another agent and they realize that same agent doesn't look at them the same way, doesn't listen to them the same way, So all of that stuff will come back and they'll remember how you made them feel. That's what makes you rare as a person. You got to make them feel good.
They'll remember the way you made them feel.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
I agree.
fantastic.
100%.
I love this, and I loved you, and I loved
Thank
having
you.
this wonderful discussion with us today. Thank you so much for coming
thank you so much
here.
for having me on here.
It's been a pleasure. So thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. If you want more social media advice, I guess you can hit up Kash perhaps for his
DM me.
creativity. Like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you can find us. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Until next time.
Thank you.
See you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.